hyperinflation, hyper and deflation are really both two sides of the same coin. They're really the same thing. It's just what unit you're going to use in the end. So if that's true, then this depression should be just like the Great Depression, except instead of people trying to sweet talk people with pieces of paper in their pockets, they're busy trying to sweet talk us. Hey guys, Rafi here from the Endgame Investor, and I got Phil on the line, Phil Lowe, whose Rumble channel is getting more popular, The Bitter Draft. Take a look at it. The link is in the description below, and it really is the complement to the stuff that I talk about. And it really Phil completes me as an economist. No, that's too 90s.
You complete me.
Wait, what movie is that? Jerry Maguire?
Jerry Maguire, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't usually quote that one. I'm not a big fan of that one. Like movie quotes usually just happen in my head, and then I irresistibly say them, and there's nothing I can do. It's like a form of Tourette's or something.
Yeah.
Snotface!
Vulture vomit!
Turkey tits!
What is going on around here?
Tourette's, Dad. Tourette's.
Well, I haven't seen a movie since like the 90s, so I'm if you quote anything modern, you're probably gonna lose me.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. I keep quoting the same decades of movies, and I can't quote any new ones, and it makes me feel very dated and old. And I think it's just gonna get worse.
Well, the inflation. I mean, it's the movie. Like we've said before, the movies and stuff are just so inflated. It's not worth going to. There's no memorable lines anyway. It's like you need to do better, Senator.
Yeah, you gotta find like movie gold. And how do you find that?
That's gold, Jerry. Gold.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about the obvious and the less obvious. The obvious is that gold hit a new all-time high of $2,091, and people are celebrating. I'll tell you the truth, I'm not really celebrating that much because it's making me just a little bit uneasy. And I'm glad about that because I don't want to be ecstatic as this thing falls. But, the thing is that gold is hitting a new all-time high at a time when money supply continues to shrink, which has me thinking what happens to the gold price when the money supply actually starts to grow again, and under what circumstances would it grow again? The answer is the Fed would have to turn around, and the amount that gold would move on that day could be in the several hundreds of dollars instantly when they hear the Fed is going to turn, and hundreds of dollars day after day. What's the next plateau after the next money printing round? I don't know. There might not be one. There might be one. We'll see. Phil, what are your immediate thoughts on gold hitting a new all-time high? How are you feeling? Are you nervous? Are you excited? Something in between? Yeah.
Definitely more nervous. I mean, I'm excited too because you're in that position, but definitely more nervous. And also the good news you can use with gold is to get like people chase things. No one wants to buy gold when it's dipping and languishing in the doldrums. But you can get when you say, you go to your friends, hey, gold just hit all-time highs, and suddenly they want to get on the train. So hopefully you can get a few more people on the gold and silver train so that they can be a little bit more prepared when the end game hits.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I look at it. My sole goal is to get as much metals into people's hands as I possibly can. So
that's what's going to happen as gold goes up and up and up. Yeah. We just hope that it's better when people that don't have any buy now rather than people that have a lot buy more, right? We want this to be as equitable and broad-based as possible, because the more broad-based it is, the less chaos there will be.
Yes.
But the premiums are still pretty low.
I mean, you've heard people are buying gold like never before. So and it's not necessarily the people that have been doing it before. So I think it is reaching a broader appeal as well. I hope so anyway. I mean, when this blows and the world is reduced to who's got the money and who doesn't, we're going to find out. If Bill Gates is the one who's been buying it all, then I guess we better learn to live in our new overlord's world.
Buy them out, boys.
Hey, what the hell's going on?
Oh, I didn't get rich by writing a lot of checks.
The more I learn, the more I think a silver standard is better for humanity.
So yeah, the silver standard is probably better for humanity. It is the original money standard, which could mean, by the logic of what money is, going back into the past in the regression theory, the regression theorem, or the regression principle, whatever you want to call it. If civilization started with a silver standard, then arguably we're still on a silver standard that's just covered up by a gold standard to pretend that silver isn't really there.
No, let me ask you this. So, like the Maasai used like heads of cattle is the money for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Could we be on a head of cattle standard and that's masked by a silver standard? Because we probably had cattle before silver.
Oh, that's an interesting philosophical question. Could we be on a head of cattle standard?
Yeah.
I would say okay. So here's my attempt to answer that question. I would say no, because when that was still happening, before we went to gold and silver, we weren't really enough of a global economy yet, right? In order to have any kind of global trade, which you could say, I don't know, maybe you want to make that the Roman Empire or the first instance of globalization or something, or maybe even before that. I mean, I'm not a history buff, so I'm not, I don't know exactly when we can define, when did we have enough of a global economy to necessitate some kind of liquid commodity like gold or silver to take center stage. But what I do know is that if you look all the way back in the Torah and the Bible, is that the first transaction ever recorded is a silver transaction. Abraham for the field of Machpelah, the field of doubles in Hebron, 400 shekels of silver, whatever a shekel is. So it seems like all the way back in biblical times we were already on silver. And now why aren't we really on a head of cattle standard? Because there were all these other different kinds of standards before each society depended on silver to transact. With liquidity, you'd have to say what's the most liquid commodity. And once you can have commodities compete with each other as to what's most liquid, meaning which commodity changes price the least with the most transactions. And I guess if it's an economy without gold or silver in it, then you'd move to the next liquid commodity, which in the Messiah might have been head of cattle. Right. But when you get big enough, that's not going to cut it. And,
so the way I actually I approach monetary theory a slightly different angle from you, because you have the monetary regression principle. I look at money as all money has to have an end user, like it has to have a non-monetary end user. So for gold and silver, it's jewelry. Silver might have industrial use. And that's why Bitcoin, at least in my videos that I put, I said that's why Bitcoin doesn't have a end user. There's no end use purpose for it. So it can never be money because no one will take it for any other purpose except as a medium of exchange. But since it has no end user, it can never become the medium of exchange. But then I started thinking about the Polynesian, those big stone wheels in Polynesia. And the guy, the big chief would order a wheel and it would be made on another island, and then guys would canoe it over, and at great risk and personal safety, and just plop it in front of his house. And the sole purpose was just sitting in front of his house being, this is how rich and powerful I am. I could order this stone wheel put there. So now I'm thinking, if you could put a billboard with your Bitcoin wallet and a QR code, and people could come by and scan it, and they say, "Oh wow, he's got 5 Bitcoin."
Oh, it's an immense Bitcoin mine.
If you can brag, then maybe you can have an end use, because the sole purpose of the wheel was just to brag that you have the wheel. Like you have this big stone thing on your front lawn. So I'm thinking if you could do that, then maybe you could get an end use case for Bitcoin, which even if it's just to say you have it.
Okay, that doesn't make me feel so good. I mean, an entire monetary system based on bragging rights for it seems circular. Pun intended on the wheel.
I'm trying to steel man the Bitcoin crowd. I'm trying to come up with a way that Bitcoin could monetize. That'd be the best way. If you can somehow publicly display your Bitcoininess, or your Bitcoin wealth, then maybe. Of course,
but then the question is, what is the Bitcoin wealth? Okay, I have a better answer on gold versus silver. I think the question you're really asking, are we really in a gold standard or a silver standard, is more like this. is silver really the more liquid commodity, and it's just being suppressed by legislation that gold is the money since 1871, and therefore that's artificially lowering the demand for silver and making it look less liquid. But if gold and silver were on equal footing and you could use either one for money, would silver really be more liquid than gold? That's the question.
Yeah.
And
I think
I don't
yes,
know.
just because it's more of it, but I don't know.
I recall Daniel Oliver writing about this in Monetary History, saying that when gold was still relatively new, or mining technology was still pretty primitive, and they just didn't have enough gold, then when somebody came upon a big deposit of gold somewhere, and that just required like a pickaxe or something to find it, and then there'd be a huge supply addition to gold, then its price movement would be pretty large because there was a small stock, and then you're adding a lot, and like you find these big things in chunks. Whereas silver was still more liquid, and so you could have a big shipment of silver come into Europe, and the price of silver wouldn't change that much. So silver would be the money, whereas gold wouldn't be. But at a point where technology becomes good enough that the supply of gold is increasing much faster, then maybe there is a point where gold becomes more liquid than silver and gold becomes the money.
Possible.
Hmm.
I mean, they're both good. I mean, they both be a good money as the base of the monetary pyramid. So I'm not necessarily opposed to a gold standard. I know you are, because you don't want the banks to be as wealthy.
I'm not opposed to a gold standard. I'm opposed to any standard. I want the market to just figure out what the standard is.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with gold is that it's hard to use as a physical money. I mean, I think they tried in India to make physical coins, like a $10 equivalent coin. It's like this,
Mm-hmm.
So and people, that could be lost. You get a little hole in your pocket and that falls right out, So
okay, so I have another idea on this. I think we're still in a silver standard because, okay, so there's this point where technology comes to a level where importing gold isn't at such an extreme level, or finding it in spurts and changing the price of gold relative to silver so quickly. But that's really it's a very temporary island, because once society reaches a point where it's increasing goods and services at a rate where the value of gold is going up a lot
constantly,
right? Yeah. And then people become really nervous about holding gold or holding it in their pockets or using it as money, because it just becomes too valuable, and it's no good for a retail level at all, right? And in order to use gold at all, you need a substitute, you need paper, you need some kind of a derivative, or else you just can't use it. So I think in that world, I think we're in that world, then you'd have to go back to a silver standard just for safety's sake, right?
Yeah. Personal safety, yeah, absolutely.
Right. So I suspect we're on a silver standard, not a gold standard, in terms of what is really the most liquid commodity. I think it's silver. I think the people that say that silver is under gold in the pyramid, I think they're right. But I could be wrong. It doesn't really matter.
It's funny how it's like deep in the like it's not obvious. It's like this deep in the bowels of conceptual thinking. You have to like figure it out. Like it should be obvious. Like, what are we using for money, right?
Yeah.
We're sitting here arguing whether it's big stone wheels or heads of cattle or silver or gold.
Well, it's the same argument as to like, what is God? Is it that statue over there? Is it is it a man in the sky? Like what made all this stuff? Well, you have to reason it out. Like, is it the sun? Well, no, it's not the sun, because the sun sets at night and the moon rises. Is it the moon? No, because it competes with the sun. So everything goes in it's one system. So there's got to be something else that's behind it all. And like, it's so obvious because like everything's here, but you have to really think about it. And sometimes the most obvious things need a lot of thought, because otherwise you can end up in these rabbit holes where nothing makes sense anymore, which is where the Federal Reserve is.
I was going to say, speaking of rabbit holes that they don't make any sense, let's talk about the dollar milkshake theory.
Okay, yes. I never really understood what this was talking about. I heard Peter Schiff talk about it and like ridicule it for a while. Something about something floating to the top, but it sounded silly to me, and I didn't want to go into the latest jargon of what Keynesianism has become, so I just never looked into it. So what the hell are we talking about?
I just watched. I thought I understood it before, and I just watched a primer on it. I think I get it. So let me steel man it, and then I'll let you take it apart if you want to.
All right.
Or agree with it if you want. So Brent Johnson, I think he's a wealth manager. He came up with this idea called the dollar milkshake theory, and his thesis is eventually we will return to gold. Like he's not against gold, but he thinks it could be well into the future. The reasoning behind it is as the Fed stops printing, even if they taper off a little bit, the rest of the economy goes berserk because there's this desperate demand for dollars at all times, right? Because all the other currencies that are derived from the dollar need the dollar to keep functioning. And he follows, he makes the argument that because there's no currency set up to replace the dollar because they're, as you pointed out, they're derivatives. So you cannot replace something with its own derivative. Because no currency is set up to replace the dollar, whenever the Fed, slows down the printing or whatever, the demand for dollars becomes so intense that the Fed has to inject more dollars into the system, and thus the system will keep going for quite some time before, it's a wave of the hand, and then suddenly we're back on a gold standard again.
Wave of the hand.
I mean, no one ever.
Okay, so basically what he's saying is that the dollar will be the most important currency until it completely dies and we go back to gold.
Yes, it is the same. It's roughly the same as you. His is just has a much longer timeline. I mean, I think he was talking 10 years, 20 years, something like that.
Okay, but so there's nothing logically wrong with the theory then?
Well, the only thing I can think of is the amount of debt tolerance. So I think the big disagreement between the two of you is you think we're debt saturated. He didn't say it in this video, but I would think that he would say that we're not debt saturated enough.
Okay. Well,
because the other side of the dollar is the debt. It's the debt. I owe you dollars, and dollars are a note for metal, right? For gold. So if I can owe you more dollars, then we can keep this going for a while. But if you're like, no, I don't want any more notes. I don't want any more bonds. I want dollars, and then I want that derivative of gold. Then that's the end game.
So I don't think there's actually a scientific calculation that you can make to determine when we are debt saturated. It's when this equation or this over that value equals X, and therefore we're saturated. And then we get back to the problem of like animal spirits again. Like, what is the point? Like, when does it happen? Is it just like people become too poor, and then I don't think it's that. I don't think it has to do with being poor. It really, I don't know what it has to do with.
Well, what I would say, I can't imagine we have 10 or 20 years because the debt has to grow at an exponential rate. We're already people are already we're putting on like $1 trillion every 90 days now on the Federal Reserve balance sheet. Or no, Treasury. National debt, Treasury debt's going up $1 trillion every 90 days. So, and that's one section of the debt. So I just can't imagine. I can't imagine.
$1 trillion every 90 days. And we know that the rate has to keep accelerating, right? It has to keep increasing. And so at some point you just go vertical. So I guess you could pin it down with some kind of equation if you can find something that fits a curve. And I've tried that before. And then it's interesting, and it's like, oh, well, I can draw the curve this way, and what's the equation there, and so I get to but like we're getting close enough anyway that I don't need to find the equation or someone who knows calculus to figure it out.
So I would say, I guess I would leave to or say to the viewers, like I fundamentally I think Brett Johnson is on the same page as us. He just has a longer timeline. So and he doesn't have. I can definitely see he views the dollar and gold as competitors. What he doesn't view them as dollar as a note for gold. So because of that fundamental misunderstanding, I think he's not seeing what we're seeing. Now we could be wrong, and he could be right. So
no, when you're saying I don't think he's right about that. A dollar has to be a note for gold. It cannot be a competitor to gold, and that's really the point that makes me stand out from everyone else. Not everyone else. Yes, I mean, you agree with me, but it's that there is no returning to gold. It's just being more honest about what you're exchanging. Okay, I'm going to share a screen here. Two things. Okay. So first of all, we're talking about people flooding into gold. I don't see that yet, which is a good thing if we're talking about how far this rally is going to go. If we're looking at the percentage premium for American gold eagles, which is, I think, one of the most popular coins. We see the spot price here is recorded as 2075. I think it's actually 2091. It depends what contract you're defining or calculating on. So it says the coin here, it's an average of $2,201.70. And I think this information is taken from Monex or something. And we see here the percentage premium is 6.11, and it's been going down since beginning of the year 2023. And I think this little thing here, I think that's just an error. So it's down from about 10.3% to 6.11%. We haven't seen much of a spike yet. So yeah, it doesn't seem like people are flooding into gold. What do we see when people are flooding into gold? Like this over here, this is what we see, right? In 2020, this is March 2020, when the premiums were at about 3.7% maybe, and they spiked all the way in like a week to 7.5%. So on one hand, you could say, yeah, we're closer to 7.5% now at the peak of the 2020 panic. But on the other hand, we're down here from the 2023 spike here, which is really something like the spot price was just too low and it wasn't sustainable. So
why is the price coming up and the premium's not moving or even going down? Is it paper gold?
What's the question?
So if the price is hitting all-time highs, but the premium is moving slightly downward, then people must be buying paper gold. Is that what's explaining that?
I think it means that there is higher demand per capita, or for the sales that are being made. There's higher demand for the spot price than there are for physical, and there is for physical. So people are the ones buying spot are willing to pay a higher premium than people who are paying for physical gold. They're not willing to pay as much. So right now it's the big bulk buyers, whoever is buying futures contracts, that are the ones that are
the
demanding.
Big bulk buyers of gold, I would assume, are going to turn around and try and retail it. So then I would expect to see a spike in retail gold after the spike of spot gold.
Right. So I'm checking right now
maybe we don't have long to wait for the premiums to go up.
The main ETF. I'm checking the GLD ETF to see what the holdings are. And if we look at this 6-month chart here, so we can see the blue line, the price is going up. And here the holdings, they're going up, but not anything too exciting. They haven't been really stocking so much. So really the speculation really isn't in GLD, it's in the futures itself, right? You see here that the GLD ETF hit a high in holdings here at about 1110 tons, 1,110 tons, right? And then we're down here, to give a little bit of perspective, all the way down here, right? It's been trending down for quite some time. So there's very little speculative fervor in the GLD ETF. It's in futures. And this is the second chart I wanted to show. We were talking about gold leading silver, and here you're right. It's hard to really make out the difference between here, but this is 2010. This is right before silver starts just going vertical, July 2010. And at this point in July 2010, gold was already at a new all-time high, far into it, right? It was at $1,400, and we did retrospect, we didn't know it was going to go up to 1,900. So it was at that point when gold just started hitting new high after new high after new high. After the resolution of the 2008 great financial crisis, gold just kept going up and up and up, and then silver just decided in a few months just to overtake gold, all of a sudden, right? So we're probably going to see something like that again.
Yeah.
So how long did it take last time? Let's test this. So there we go. Okay, so we're looking at silver here, and this is gold. Right, the all-time high in gold was here in March 2008 at $1,009, and then we retake that in October 2009, right? 1,025, September 2009, October 2009, somewhere around there, and then gold keeps hitting new high after new high after new high. So September 2009, and now we are at you want to count it here? We can count it here. We're at August 2010. So about, 8, 9, 10, 11, a little less than a year. right, of gold hitting new highs that silver decides to catch up. So if we have a new high now, and we can expect things to go faster now than they were in 2008, right, or 2009. So if it took about a year then, and things are moving, let's say twice as fast, what do we got? 6 months?
Yeah. So we're talking $50 gold in 6 months, basically.
Maybe. You were talking about Argentina, and during one of its bouts of hyperinflation, how there were price controls put on bakers so that they couldn't raise their prices fast enough, and they tried to clear the market in all these kinds of clever ways. And if we look at hyperinflation as the clearing of the entire market, after the bakers cleared their market, they were able to sell bread. So after the entire market clears, people will be able to sell things. It should be a better world. It's just going to take a lot more readjustment. Argentinian bakers readjusting their market it doesn't take that long, but the entire world to readjust to its real market is going to take some chaos in the middle.
So another example is during Nixon's price controls of gas, because Nixon was inflating like crazy. And then the price of gas went up because that's what happens. And so they put a price cap. So and then these mile long lines grew because the price of gas was undervalued. If anytime you see a line, this is something I learned in class a long time ago. Anytime you see a line, that means the price is too low. So even in like a football stadium, if you see a line for the women's room, they need to start charging, and that will get people to the people that marginally don't need to pee that bad will wait, and the people that really need to pee will pay the dollar. The problem with the line is that you could have somebody who really needs to pee over here at the back of the line, and the bathroom's over here, and then this person kind of needs to go, but not terribly, right? So it's a misallocation. I know it seems cruel. The average person is going to be like, "How dare you try to charge someone for a bodily need?" But actually, what it's doing is allocating it to the person who needs it most. So the person you could even auction off the bathroom stall, right? So the person who needs it most will be the highest bidder, and then they get the relief faster, and the person who's marginal can wait till the end, right?
Right. There are degrees of that. If I could challenge you for a second, there are degrees of that because there are like box seats where you have bathrooms that are more available and you just pay higher and it's all put into the price of the ticket. But I think Walter Block addresses this in one of his books. Why would scalping, like ticket scalping, is an issue? People buying tickets in bulk and then scalping them at the stadium. It means that the stadium is selling its tickets at a price that's too low. It's not clearing the market. So you attract these scalpers to buy it at market price and then raise it to the market clearing price, right? And they make a living doing that, and that's supposedly illegal. So there is some kind of economic incentive for an organization to charge below market prices, because if they don't, then there could be like riots in the bathrooms, or you could have people just like bringing catheters to the stadium so they could just pee there and then hiding it. That happens. And people who drink a lot of beer, they just like wrap a catheter around, and they just go to the bathroom there, sitting down, they have to move, and you don't want to make that a thing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and people have a view that's not necessarily, you and I are sort of economists. We say, oh, well, that's interesting, we do it that way. But if you were to actually institute that in the stadium, I mean, you got a drunk person who needs to pee, and you're like, yeah, that'll be a couple blocks. I mean, yeah, you're gonna, they might have a violent reaction to something like that. So you have to. Human nature is we're not all Homo economicus where we just rationally walk around all the time. But anyway, back to the Nixon's gas lines, right? Okay. So this I don't want to call it a career. This gig developed where someone would come up to your car and, excuse me, sir, if you don't want to wait, I will drive the car, fill it with gas for you, and for a small fee, right? So you don't have to wait in the line. They'll wait in the line for you. They'll inch your car forward and fill it with gas, and you pay them. So you're basically buying your time back. Now, I don't know exactly how it worked because this is before my time, but I think my father was the one who told me about this one. So the market will try to clear, right? Because you got a business executive with a high value time. You don't want to sit there in a 2-hour gas line, and then someone comes along with lower value time. They'll work out some sort of exchange where somehow there's got to be some version of trust here where you're giving the man your car and the money to buy the gas. He doesn't just drive off, leave the car and take.
Well, it's like valet parking, but it would have to be an established market. But at the beginning, there has to be trust. Yeah.
Yeah, there has to be trust of some sort, and I don't know exactly how it worked, but these things will emerge because the market will always try to clear, and if it gets so oppressive that it can't clear, that's when people really take to the streets, and that's when things get very chaotic. So I would say, yeah, if the hyperinflation is the clearing of all markets, I don't see a way it could clear. I mean, except for silver bursting out, like like Uncle Scrooge's money bin, exploding out and dispersing the wealth very quickly. I don't see a way of it resolving itself except through the chaos and violence.
So on the analogy of market clearing, let's say all these financial jobs or the Wall Street built on piles and piles of derivatives, mountain on top of it, mountains. When the market clears in hyperinflation, all of that reaches its market value of close to zero because there will be no demand. There will be no demand for any of it. And so you have this situation. I'm trying to work out how it could even clear itself. We've had all these people, thousands and thousands of people that a day before or a week before, they were insanely powerful and they had all these connections with government who would always bail them out. And there was this like ping pong of power between them, getting higher and higher above us. And then all of a sudden it's just taken out from under them. Then what do they do next?
Well, a lot of people jump out of windows. The ones that don't, I'll tell you, my great grandfather was, I think I told this story before. My great grandfather had $2 million in the stock market in the 1928. And they lost everything in the financial crash. Now, apparently he didn't lose everything the day of, like that big crash. He was not on the wrong side of that one, but he didn't know when to quit. So when it dropped another 50%, they ended up losing everything. They lived on air and for years, apparently.
Wait, what do you mean lived on air? What it like?
They just kiting checks, sweet talking people who still had money and their social connections. I don't. I mean, my grandfather wanted to go to school, and my great grandmother's big dream for him was to be a hotel bellboy. She said, "No, don't go to school. I want you to be a hotel bellboy, and we're gonna, I guess, make connections." I don't know what the plan was, but then the war broke out, and then things changed. But it was my great grandmother would sell neckties. She's kind of like an Avon lady, but she would sell gentlemen's neckties at parties. So she'd go to fancy parties and I guess sell necktie. I don't know how she broached the subject or pulled out the neckties, but that's they did all this, like they basically mooshed off the people who still had money. That's the bottom line. And I don't know I don't know what it's going to look like when like Wall Street, completely melts down and all these people are, sitting around and they have, degrees in high finance, never worked a manual job, don't know how to plant a potato. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, is there enough air for them to continue living on as my family managed to?
So what if we put it this way? So the Great Depression, people are living on trying to sweet talk to people with money, meaning money back then is with dollars because dollars were still $35 an ounce for gold. So what if just the difference now? I mean, hyperinflation, hyper and deflation are really both two sides of the same coin. They're really the same thing. It's just what unit you're going to use in the end. So if that's true, then this depression should be just like the Great Depression, except instead of people trying to sweet talk people with pieces of paper in their pockets, they're busy trying to sweet talk us.
Yeah, the metal people. I will say, I will real quick addendum. I will say that the Packard Bell touring car was gone. The trips to Europe were gone. The governesses were gone. Like all the fancy stuff is gone. They did. I think they still lived in Manhattan, so they were able to maintain that. But as far as I know, like the swell lifestyle they were living before was completely gone, and they were back. I don't know if in modern day the importance of appearance is as much as it was back then. I mean, back then it was really important to maintain your social status. So you open the door to the apartment and there's nothing in it. There's like a cardboard table, and a couple of benches to sit on. But I don't know if people would do that this time. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that's going to look like. Yeah, and they would. I mean, yeah, I would expect once word gets out, if you're a medal holder, yeah, you're probably going to get people knocking on your door.
The only
And you don't
thing,
necessarily want to be in Manhattan. Like, I wouldn't want to be in Manhattan with the only person holding medals. Like,
no, you'll be invaded. You'll be taken over. You'll be robbed.
yeah.
No, it would really make me nervous to live in a high-rise building in Manhattan or Chicago or LA or anything like that at this time. It's not anywhere I want to be.
But you can apparently. Lynette Zhang was saying that 25 ounces of gold in these situations, 25 ounces of gold will buy a city block, buildings and all. So, you might want to consider buying it just from far away. Do the deal, produce the metal elsewhere, but yeah, buy the block.
Oh, the problem is, even if I did buy it, I'd have to invest in protecting it. I mean, I don't know what kind of Mad Max scenario it would be in, but I'd have to wait for somebody.
That's my addendum to that, is that it might be on fire, but it will be on sale.
That's the real meaning of fire sale, huh?
Oh my God! We're having a fire sale! Oh, the burning! It burns me!
The only other thing I'd add is Weimar. The reason Weimar took as long as it did, and I'll even add the Great Depression. The reason Weimar took as long as it did is they weren't allowed to default. Like, Germany was saying, we cannot pay this, and the Allies were like, yes, you will. Right. So that's why it lasted so long. And then the Great Depression was, it could have just been a stock market correction and, a bit of upheaval. But, the New Deal just came in and distorted everything and extended it much longer. If this is as big an event as we think it is, they will not be able to regulate their way out of it. They won't be able to create the New Deal stuff, and it will be it should be over quickly, I would imagine. I think it'll be quick. I hope it'll be quick.
Yeah, and
because the government we didn't have any debt in the 30s. We didn't have much debt. The government was what, 30% of GDP or something, 20%. So now we're what, 130%. I mean, who's going to loan the U.S. government money to institute a New Deal where we're going to provide Social Security to everybody, even though the last Social Security just blew up in our faces, right? It's not going to happen. So.
Yeah, I mean, even in the late 1970s, when we were in our last monetary crisis, the debt levels were very low.
Yeah,
I think they were at lows since World War II. I think they were like 25-30%, something like that, during a monetary crisis. So we have the next monetary crisis with debt levels at 130%. It's going to be much worse.
Yeah, but like I said, hopefully very quick. I don't see anything that would extend it. The crisis is everyone realizes they have no money. Everyone realizes, oh my God, we're completely flat broke. What could and then you move on your life from there. You sell your house, you sell your car, you find a job digging ditches. I don't know, you find a new job.
So there's two there's probably more than two. There's two that I'm thinking of, factors that can really complicate this. One is that, let's say in the 1920s and 1930s, the communication was like basically phones and telegrams, and that's it, really. Like, if you wanted to talk to other countries or to communicate overseas, but now everyone's communicating overseas at all times with everything, with WhatsApp or so much more stuff. Everyone's talking to everyone, and there's the internet.
Right,
and that how does that the cost to maintain that communication infrastructure could just be too much for the world to handle, and all of communications could go down for a while or for more than a while. And that would really create economic chaos, because all of the economic connections are based on these instantaneous communications, everyone with everyone. And the second thing that would really complicate things is that the geopolitical order, right, that would fall apart. I mean, people think that America's holding the Middle East together, and it might be in its current form. And what happens when the aircraft carriers that are off the coast of Haifa right now, and they leave because there's a dollar crisis, and then everyone invades Israel or something, and China invades Taiwan, and do they even have the money to do that? I don't know.
I mean, they don't have any money either. So it takes money to do an invasion. So
yeah,
no, I would expect everything to collapse down to like village level almost briefly. So. And I mean, China is in just as bad shape, if not much worse shape than America. So, I mean, China's 5,000-year history since its inception is the building of this big bureaucratic state, a collapse into feudal warlords shooting each other, and then a reassembly into this big bureaucratic state with a corrupt emperor, and then collapse back into this. I think we're just going to see that again. I mean, collapse into, the Cantonese are going to be like, well, we'll just form the little nation of Canton again, and the Manchus up in Manchuria will do the same thing. It'll break up and maybe form back together.
Isn't that the history of every country?
Well, I don't know. You got me on the spot there. Yeah, I guess so. I guess it is the world is a series of the everything conglomerates, and then it gets corrupt, and then it breaks down.
Yeah, well, that's like the seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter. So we're in the
I would
fall.
love
We're
to
about
try
to
and
enter
avoid
winter.
that from now on, but I don't know. Like you said, it's human nature. I don't know if there's no rule. I mean, the U.S. Constitution was supposed to be the document that would protect against all this, but people just started ignoring the Constitution or coming up with reasons why this doesn't really apply at this moment in time, right? And then that builds and snowballs, and then suddenly you don't really have a Constitution anymore.
Documents can't save a society. Before the Constitution blew up, the Torah also blew up. I mean, we had our first Commonwealth, and that blew up, and the first temple was destroyed, and then we were taken over by Babylonia. And the miracle is that for some reason we're still around, and I don't know what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, I know what we're supposed to be doing, but we'll see. We'll see if we can do it.
When the Egyptian currency and the Jordanian currency and the Lebanese currency and the Syrian currency are all like massively hyperinflating at the exact same time, along with the shekel and the dollar, no, they're not going to be invasions. Like, I wouldn't worry about that. Not by anything larger than guys with 50 cals bolted onto pickup trucks, but you'll have your own 50 cals bolted on the pickup trucks. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I have my handgun back, so that's good. I have a few bullets.
Yeah. Sorry, we're getting real cheerful here. And who knows? I mean, America might break up into states or even smaller groups. I don't know. I think, my guess is the country people are going to be sick to death of the city people. And I could imagine states reshaping themselves. Like I could see California like breaking up into 3 states or something.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's peaceful or violent, I don't know.
Hopefully more. And it's there is a good chance, and let's get into like weird stuff now, but there's a good chance that Trump is going to be the one in charge, or at least nominally in charge, when this thing falls. If he wins, when is it? 2020, January 2025?
Yeah.
Well, we might not make it to that.
Assuming I would imagine so, because assuming he's not assassinated, and assuming the Republic is still standing during this, I mean, there's no way everyone's going to be run out of town. Like Congress, they're going to be run out of town. Now the question is, what does he do? Like once he's in, does he say, okay, let's reform, because he's never had the best advisors and he's not very good at picking them. So, does Jerome Powell or whoever his successor is say, listen, we need to confiscate all the gold. We need to do draconian actions, get this ship running. Or does Trump say, okay, let's just start minting gold again as the $20 and minting silver as the dollar. And we'll go back to that, and we'll let the markets make their own currency beyond that.
I don't know. I don't trust Trump to make any right decisions. But what might act? Here's a crazy scenario. Like, let's say Milei is successful enough to get Argentina's economy basically functioning again, and then people look to him. He's got the right ideas. I don't know what have you been following him? What's he been doing the past few days? Is he getting anything done?
He's so far he's had a meeting with Bill Clinton and the IMF.
Oh, great. Has he shut down the Argentinian central bank?
He is talking about shutting down the Argentine central bank, but they're talking about going to the dollar. Like he hasn't made that final connection yet.
Okay. So he can go to the dollar, and then when the dollar collapses, he'll say, well, what am I going to go back to now? And he'll have to go back to gold and silver because
it's not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. He also has a hostile legislature. So I don't know Argentine politics. I don't know the extent of his power and what he can do with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I do have an Argentinian friend I asked to interview for a video, but he hasn't gotten back to me yet. But I almost co-wrote a book with him, but then I had to take my name off of it because of the COVID stuff. It was a book defending Israel And I didn't really want to do that at the time when Israel was enslaving all of us and threatening to put us in concentration camps. So it wasn't really like, I can't do this right now. I support your book, but I just don't want my name on it right now.
I'm still optimistic about like humanity in general. As negative as this conversation just went, I am still optimistic about humanity in general, and I think we'll see people rise to the occasion. And in most cases, I mean, there's going to be people taking advantage of the chaos in very dark ways. But I think humanity has always been people working together. I mean, that's what we are. So
yeah, and I think Milei really is a sign of that. Because I mean, I'm just speaking from my own perspective of like, I've had no camp, because on the one hand, I'm a libertarian, Austro-libertarian economist, but I live in Israel and I'm a religious Jew. I'm like, what the hell? There's like the people that I ally with, most of them hate me in some way. Yeah, or they find me very suspicious. And the Jews think that I'm allied with the anti-Semites, or what they perceive as anti-Semites. Whatever. Don't worry about these labels. I'm just trying to like give an idea of what the and like I'm caught in between. And then all of a sudden, like this guy Milei, who is an Austro-libertarian anarcho-capitalist, they call him, or he calls himself that, and he wants to and now he wants to convert to Judaism, and he loves Israel. Like, where did this guy come from? Like, what the hell is going on? And like, I thought I was alone, but then this guy who speaks Spanish is like standing for the same stuff. So it's these kinds of things. Like, I don't consider myself a prophet or anything, or like, I don't read signs into everything that happens, but this is pretty big. It means that I'm in the right place somewhere.
Yeah, well, I might have to brush up on my Spanish if things get weird enough here. I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Take care, Rafi.
Good chat.
See you next week.
Bye.